Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a really fascinating challenge. It's rooted in how information gets shared and, maybe more importantly, understood across different cultures. We're diving into a piece by Steve Evans titled Orality, Bible Narratives, and Indigenous Reproducing Churches. And it highlights this, well, pretty significant barrier in global communication that often gets overlooked, especially with foundational knowledge and stories.
Yeah, it's a key insight.
The core idea Evans puts forward is quite powerful. Even though communication tech lets us reach more people than billions, they aren't truly hearing or grasping the message.
Exactly. And why? Evan says it's because the communication style itself just doesn't align with how they actually learn.
Right. So our mission today is to really unpack this. We'll look at the sheer scale of the issue, try to understand why traditional methods, often print-based, just aren't connecting. And then we'll explore how a specific approach, one focused on narrative, on stories, is being used to try and bridge these gaps. Some are even calling it potentially the next wave in, global communication efforts.
It's a big claim, but the potential seems huge.
Think of it like this. Understanding the incredible power of story in a world where, for billions, print just isn't the main way they engage with information. Evans puts it starkly. May we be doing for oral communicators what Gutenberg did for literates.
Wow, that's quite a statement.
It is. Okay, let's get right into it. Evans starts by pointing out this striking paradox.
Which is?
That efforts to share foundational knowledge are broader than ever, but for so many people, the message just isn't being heard, not in a way that leads to real understanding.
And the numbers Evans cites really underscore this. It's estimated that maybe up to 2/3 of the world's population, that's over 4 billion people, they primarily communicate and learn through oral means.
4 billion, that's staggering.
It is. And this could be because they can't read, sure. But it could also just be that their culture places a really high value on oral tradition. It's how things are passed down.
Okay, now contrast that with the methods typically used. Evans points out that something like over 90% of people involved in sharing knowledge globally, they're using very literate styles.
Right, relying heavily on the printed page or giving presentations that are structured like written essays, with outlines, lists, steps, abstract principles.
Things that make perfect sense if you're used to learning from text.
Exactly. But for someone whose mind operates more in an oral framework, that structure can be incredibly hard to follow. It just doesn't compute in the same way. It's almost like handing sheet music to someone who only understands spoken word poetry.
And then you add another layer on top, the language barrier itself. I mean, the numbers are pretty stark there too, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. There are, over 6,800 languages spoken?
Something like that, yeah.
And out of all those, maybe only around 400 have a complete printed foundational text available. Maybe another 1,000 have a partial one, like the New Testament section.
Which leaves a lot.
A huge number. Over 4,450 languages with basically nothing in print. And getting print resources into all those languages, we're talking decades of work at least.
And Evans raises a critical point beyond just availability. Even if, magically, print Bibles appeared in every language tomorrow.
Right. The big question is, could someone from a primarily oral culture actually engage with it effectively? Could they read it, understand it deeply, respond to it, reproduce the message accurately, and crucially, form a functioning community around it using that method?
It's a fundamental question about the medium itself.
Yeah. And Evans estimates that maybe 70% or even more of the groups who haven't really been reached effectively are oral communicators.
So this isn't a niche issue. It's central.
It's arguably the central challenge. How do we actually respond to their communication needs so they can truly hear and engage?
Okay, so this obviously leads us to the crucial question, how? How do you effectively communicate with this massive population that thinks and learns orally?
Well, Evans is very clear on this. The presentation method must match their inherent learning styles and preferences.
Which means moving away from those literate structures we talked about.
Precisely. And this is where narrative, where stories become so incredibly important. Evans points to things like stories, songs, proverbs, poetry, drama, even multimedia now. These are the formats that resonate.
Why is that, though? What makes narrative so powerful for oral learners?
It's because, fundamentally, that's how knowledge, history, values, cultural identity It's all traditionally transmitted and understood in oral societies. It's baked into the culture.
It's the natural way information flows.
It is,
For
and it's
all-
not just about what people prefer, it's about what's actually effective. Evans quotes the New Testament scholar N.T. Wright, who talks about how stories provide a vital framework for experiencing the world.
Okay, a framework for experience. That makes sense.
But Wright adds something else really interesting. He says, stories are, and this is his phrase, peculiarly good at modifying or subverting other stories and their worldviews.
Subverting other stories. How so?
Well, think about it. If you hit someone with a direct, head-on argument against their deeply held beliefs, what usually happens?
Defenses go up immediately.
Right, but a compelling story, it can kind of slip past those defenses. It can gain entrance, find favor, and subtly invite the listener to question their own assumptions, their own worldview narrative, often where that direct attack would just fail.
That's fascinating. It works on a different level.
Exactly. It bypasses the intellectual guards, in a way.
So Evans argues, for oral communicators to really internalize deep truths, they need to hear the rich narratives. It's through hearing these stories repeatedly that they can absorb, meditate on, and retell the core concepts, the character qualities, the unfolding drama.
Otherwise, they miss out on so much. The wonder, the treachery, the moments of human folly and divine intervention. All the things that make abstract concepts like patience, provision, love, real.
Stories bring those abstract ideas to life. They show cause and effect, character, consequence.
In a way that simple lists or principles just can't capture. They show these things playing out across generations in relatable, memorable ways.
And Evans makes a really strong claim here. It's the stories themselves that really transform lives, going beyond just, head knowledge or changed outward behavior.
Right. He suggests that in cultures with very different underlying worldviews, just giving a single presentation of core beliefs might not be very convincing. It doesn't have time to challenge those deep assumptions.
So what's more effective?
He finds that using a set of chronological narratives works much better. Telling the stories in order allows them to build on each other.
How does that help with different worldviews?
Well, you can use points of similarity between the narratives being shared and the listener's own cultural stories as bridges. But then, over time, the unfolding narrative can also gently introduce contrasting ideas, confronting worldview barriers bit by bit.
Ah, so it's a gradual process of comparison.
Exactly. It allows listeners time to consider, this story seems more compelling, more complete than the one I've always known.
And Evans notes that taking this panoramic approach, presenting stories chronologically, say from Genesis to Revelation in the case of the Bible, has shown really remarkable impact, especially among groups previously considered unreachable.
The theory sounds good, but it's the real-world examples that really hit home.
Absolutely. And Evans provides some powerful ones. He first describes the storying approach itself as deliberately not confrontational. It's not preaching in the typical sense, not teaching like a lecture, but merely conveying the stories, just telling the narratives.
And that subtle difference is key, especially when navigating difficult or hostile environments.
Absolutely.
Because this approach can often go under the radar. Think about places where traditional missionary activities, crusades, mass evangelism, public preaching, even building churches face strong opposition or are simply impossible.
Like closed countries or specific restricted settings.
Exactly. Borders, jail cells, even just getting invited into the home of someone from a different faith background. Stories can travel where overt messengers or printed materials often can't.
He gives that West Africa example, which is quite striking. A couple went to live in a village known to be pretty resistant. The chiefs knew they were missionaries, basically, but when asked if they planned mass evangelism or building a church, the couple said no. And they were given permission to stay.
Just based on that promise.
Yeah. And their strategy was incredibly focused. Just live among the people, demonstrate their values through their actions, and use only chronological storying to share the Bible truth needed to understand the gospel. No debates, just stories.
And this was in a place where the local perception of Christians was really negative, right?
Very negative. Evans mentions things like bad, pray only once a week in a building, drunkards, idolaters, people you cannot trust. And Jesus was just that guy in the movie.
Wow. So a really uphill battle.
You'd think so. But Evans reports amazing results unfolding over 2 years simply through this patient process of living alongside and sharing stories.
That's incredible. Then there's the South America example.
Right, with Jeremy. This volunteer, remarkably, didn't even speak Spanish or the local indigenous language initially.
So how did he contribute?
He focused on coaching local mother tongue speakers to become the storytellers. He equipped them.
Ah, empowering the locals.
Exactly. And his involvement in just facilitating that process was a significant factor in a church planting movement where eventually up to 20% of that entire people group became believers.
20%, that's a huge impact.
And those local storytellers are still using the method, reaching out to new villages. It became self-sustaining.
It really shows the power of a low-tech, highly reproducible method.
And the North Africa training example is just as compelling. 17 young men, many with low literacy levels, went through a 2-year leadership training program.
Using only storying.
Primarily, yes, chronological Bible storying. They apparently mastered around 135 key stories covering Genesis to Revelation.
Mastered them how?
They could tell them accurately, sing them, even dramatize them. And importantly, when asked theological questions, they could answer by pointing back to the relevant stories. They could connect themes across the narrative arc.
So their theology was grounded in the stories.
That's what the external examiner found. They were impressed by the accurate recall, the solid theological understanding derived directly from the narratives, their eagerness to share, and a really dramatic improvement in understanding foundational concepts they'd struggled with before.
Like what kind of concepts?
Things like the Old Testament's relevance, the relationship between God and Jesus, God's characteristics, angelic beings, the concept of being born again, how to navigate local deity beliefs, things that were unclear before the storying approach.
It sounds like the stories didn't just convey information, they became integrated into the culture and life of the community.
Precisely. These examples really drive home that this isn't just a nice idea. It's producing real, tangible, transformative results for people who learn best orally.
And Evans really emphasizes how inherently reproducible this whole approach is.
Yeah, it's suited for communities that aren't necessarily highly technological. You don't need fancy equipment.
And crucially, it naturally involves local oral communicators in reaching their own people. You're not relying indefinitely on outsiders or expensive foreign resources.
He calls it a truly reproducible evangelistic and church planting approach, because the new believers who are reached and discipled using storying
Can then use that exact same method to share with others, plant new faith communities, and disciple the next ways. It builds itself.
Exactly. And while it's obviously critical for unreached oral groups, Evans makes a point that chronological storying can actually offer significant benefits even where there's already an established church.
Shows
It can fill in gaps that might have been missed by purely literate approaches to evangelism, discipleship, and leadership training over the years. It can deepen understanding even for literate people.
that makes sense. So what's the core principle for making this sustainable long term?
Evans stresses this is crucial. You have to start oral and remain oral,
Meaning?
meaning the narrative, story-based approach needs to be used consistently throughout the whole process. Initial evangelism, ongoing discipleship, leadership training, church life. You can't just use stories to start and then switch to literate methods later.
Because that would break the connection with how people naturally learn and transmit information in that culture.
Right. It has to remain the primary mode. It's about more than just translating words. It's about embedding the message within the fundamental communication structure of the audience.
Okay, so pulling this all together now, where does Evans see this heading?
Well, he points out that there's a growing convergence, with multiple organizations working towards a common vision.
Which includes?
Getting God's word, foundational texts, to every group, every tribe, tongue, people, and nation. Seeing actual church planting movements emerge from that. And specifically tackling this huge issue of orality.
And providing resources for Bible storying and similar narrative approaches.
Exactly, but there's also a warning attached, isn't there?
Yes, a significant one. Evans cautions that if foundational knowledge isn't presented in these culturally appropriate ways, which means oral and narrative for oral cultures, then new movements, even if they start, can be vulnerable.
Vulnerable how?
They can crash, splinter, fall prey to cults, or face syncretism and mixing beliefs inappropriately.
Why? What's the root cause?
Because without a solid foundation that's truly understood and internalized in a way that resonates, there isn't a stable base for faith, for witness, or for building healthy, enduring communities. The roots aren't deep enough if the soil wasn't right, so to speak.
So, reflecting on all this, what does it mean for you, listening? This deep dive into Steve Evans's work, it really hammers home that effective communication, truly effective communication, isn't just about what you say.
No, it's so much about how you say it, and maybe most importantly, understanding who you're trying to reach. Billions of people, genuinely process information, and build their understanding of the world in ways that are profoundly different from the print-focused cultures that, let's face it, produce most global communication materials.
It's a fundamental difference.
Absolutely. And it shows that narrative isn't just some, optional extra or a nice to have. For a huge portion of humanity, it is the basic architecture for understanding the world, for connecting with deep truths.
It's not just about translating words across languages.
No, it's about translating concepts and ways of thinking into the listener's cognitive and cultural framework using the right medium. It's about transformation through the right kind of communication.
It really makes you pause and consider the simple yet incredibly profound power of a well-told story. How it can get past barriers, how it can shift perspectives, how it can stick with you in a way that, lists of facts or abstract principles often just don't.
Which actually raises a really interesting question for us to think about. If this chronological storing approach is proving this effective for conveying complex ideas, for establishing foundational understanding, and even fostering community transformation in oral cultures around the globe,
Yeah.
what might that tell us about the enduring role and maybe the underestimated power of narrative in our own world? Even among highly literate populations in our, increasingly fast-paced, short attention span, media-saturated societies. Is there something fundamental about story we're perhaps neglecting?
That is a provocative thought. Definitely something to keep mulling over long after our deep dive today finishes.